back at Mita Unshackled, at MJ Unpacked, at New York. Those didn't quite work well together, but whatever. It's a new world. I can redefine language if I want to. You can redefine anything nowadays, right?
Right.
Anyway, so Dimitri Downing here, back, of course, with the co-host with the mostest.
George Stanchik, Purified Extraction. Faster, cheaper, better extraction.
And cleaner.
And cleaner, of course.
We got to change that. We got to keep adding adjectives on there. Best extraction machine on the market. Also a friend from Arizona. Co-host and trading of Mita Unshackled. And we are pleased to be joined by a very important organization that's doing some great stuff. And so the ladies are going to introduce themselves, and then we're going to talk about their organization. Don't talk too much about their organization at first. Let's talk about you.
Okay. Well, hello. My name's Debbie Churg. I am the Executive Director of Americans for Safe Access. I have been an advocate for the cannabis industry for about 6 or 7 years now. And guess what? I'm not a patient. And I just want people to know that you don't have to be a patient to know this is medicine. You don't have to be a patient to know that it's helping people. You don't have to be a patient to believe in the movement and advocate for the movement. And so I'm just here representing people that know cannabis is medicine, that know it's safer than many other drugs, and to encourage people to get educated about it.
And you're the executive director
Yes.
of ASA?
Yes.
And we'll talk about what that is in a second. What were you doing before you became executive director? Is that a full-time thing?
It's kind of funny, actually. Yeah, it's a full-time job. But what I was doing before was I was actually doing some health research in smoke and cessation. So I was trying to get people to stop smoking nicotine. And I went from going to getting people to stop smoking to getting people to smoking something else. So.
Way better than nicotine.
Yeah. So I was working for the SAMHSA, which is Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, working on smoking. So
I think I heard the story somewhere before.
You may have.
That's a good story. I was a prosecutor, and then I came into the industry as a businessman in 2012. And my first thought when I came into the industry was like, hey, you know what? My family's gonna make a lot of money. It's cool. It's just another industry. Somebody figured out a politically viable way to get high. It's all good. These hippies are clever. You know, I don't consume. I'm a patient myself. Let's just figure out what's going on and make some money. After 3 or 4 years, I became probably the strongest advocate for liberty, adult choice, and freedom that this industry could possibly ever have. I literally will rip people's throats out if they take away my freedom. And whether or not I want to use cannabis is not the government's business.
Absolutely.
Whether or not I want to use heroin is not the government's business. As long as I'm an excellent individual. I was thinking about how much coffee I abuse. But that's the goal, right?
Right.
And so in that, I'm not a patient or therapeutical user or a user by choice or recreational user, whatever they want to self-define as. But I am an advocate for freedom and freedom of choice. So that's kind of my journey. And become a big, real huge defender of those rights. And let's introduce you before I keep talking about me more.
So I'm Piper Lindeen. I joined Americans for Safe Access in September as a volunteer development manager. And I got to Debbie. I met Debbie through the U Maryland MCST program, which I did, the graduate program there. Before that, was advocating in Texas since 2014. And the reason I was advocating in Texas is because my son is a medical cannabis patient. So he has Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. And when medications weren't working, we turned to cannabis. He was really at a sad state with tons of seizures happening all of the time. And he was barely interactive with us. We gave him cannabis because nothing else was working, and he came to life immediately overnight. And so didn't have seizures for 6 weeks. But one of the reasons that advocating and helping out with Americans for Safe Access, and Debbie does so much work. It's insane how much work Debbie does. And I think, something that's so meaningful to me is that Debbie participates in this advocacy so much, and, devoted to it. And she's not a patient. She doesn't have a patient in her immediate family. So it's like all this stuff I feel like I owe to Debbie and other advocates that have participated in bringing us what we have now, and my son benefits so much from it. But we still have a long way to go. So we don't have federal access, and we're working on getting federal legislation passed. If you're interested, it's on our website. You can find it at SafeAccessNow.org /model legislation, and read over it. And, we had a discussion about, possibilities this morning. You said you hadn't read it, but,
we're the media about it. Don't trust the media.
Yeah. He's a lawyer. He wants to read the whole bill. But I encourage, people
I'll
to
send it to you. We have it all written out. We wrote the whole legislation.
And we're going to dive deep into you right now. Just let me make one more joke.
I want one more thing, too.
Yeah, you go first. Then we'll get to you. So let me make my joke. Okay. So, I like to talk about fake news, like the fake news of prohibition. Right? People don't, fake news doesn't exist.
Yeah.
See prohibition.
So on the fake news joke, so I've got a joke before I finish what I was saying before. Yeah, it's like the slippery slope. The slippery slope. I hate when legislators tell you about the slippery slope. It's like the slippery slope is the morality of letting people continue to suffer when we have something that can help them. We just need to have interstate commerce and remove those burdens of like 280E, things that are making cannabis business so difficult to get profitability in. So we need to clear the way with federal legislation and let these companies start spending money and getting studies approved to figure out how to medicate. Because my son, this was the end of the story. My son doesn't have complete control. He has 8 months of seizure freedom and about 4 months where he relapses. And so I feel like if we did have this legislation, then we could get better solutions for people like him and others.
We're going to get technical with Debbie here in a second, because we're going to dive deep into the organization and the legislation. But let me make one more comment, because after my joke, your comment, this life is a slippery slope. What I realized, everything's a shade of gray.
Yeah.
So slippery slope is just another way of saying gray. There's very little things that exist in black and white. So I made my mission in life to be that line in between yin and yang, that space between the two of them. That is the slippery slope. That is the gray area. That is the reality of lives that we all live. Anyway, so I like that something about slippery slope. Anyway, so slippery slope, who cares?
I know, seriously.
Right.
We care about people's lives.
Right.
Stop telling me whatever medical legislation
and
is
they
going
talk,
to lead to.
Who lives in yin and yang, or up and down, or left and right? I mean, most people that I know, including me, live in that little space that's undefined in between yin and yang. Those guys had it all wrong.
And the thing is that gap that's getting into the gap, right?
Right.
of living is important to have these conversations. Like, we didn't agree on everything this morning, but we had conversations about it, and I'm going to be looking into your point of views more, and I hope you're going to be looking at the legislation for Americans for Safe Access more, and then we can have follow-up conversations.
I thought we agreed on everything. What conversation were you having? It's like, what room were you in?
I think I favor, because I think
what didn't we agree on?
I think it's for sensitivity. For me, I feel like I don't know. I guess maybe I'm wrong, because it was early in the morning, right? But I like regulations to protect my baby.
Oh no! We agreed on that.
Okay.
We agreed on that. Let's the licensing caps.
Okay.
We need licensing and we need regulation, but there's that big misconception that licensing caps have to exist when you have licensing. Those guys that are selling hot dogs in the street corner down here, they have licenses. They're under the health department. But anybody who wants to, although it's probably a little bit more expensive, can go down to the New York City food department, whatever it is, and say, here's my $100. I want a cart. I got this corner. I've leased this space. So there's only a certain amount of space in the world, so that's a little different thing. But I want this license from the government, and I'm going to do it safe, the way that the government says it has to be done. So that's licensing, and that's okay. But licensing caps prevent people from participating. And I would argue all day long that they oppress people because it limits an individual's ability to get involved unless they have money, lawyers, and lobbyists. And that, in the end, hurts the downtrodden the most. That's Adam Smith's argument.
And well, you know.
But there are certain states that have too many businesses, so many that they're not making any money. So I kind of I'm in the middle there. Like,
yes,
I believe
she's
that
in the yin-yang middle.
there shouldn't be the really restrictive license caps that there are in certain states that make it impossible for everyone to get the access they need. But in some states, it's just so crazy that no one's making any money because there's just businesses on every single corner. So,
and then they will fail.
Yeah.
And that's the nature
of
reality.
That's how business works.
Yes. I don't have any kids, though, so maybe I'm a little bit more cruel. So you just can't throw them into the mix. They have to be supported. Okay. Enough about all this stuff. Debbie, tell us about the organization.
So we just celebrated our 21st birthday. So we've been around since 2002. We started out in California before there was even a legal industry. When we started out, there was only about, a few businesses that were running, but they were all running illegally. And we decided there needs to be a legal and safe place for patients to go to get their medicine. We really appreciated those businesses, risking their lives, providing medicine for people. And to this day, I still appreciate all those people that were that worked in this industry before there was an industry to provide medicine. But we wanted a safe place where businesses could be safe, there weren't any raids, and patients could get safe medicine. So we started out in California, and we kind of worked our way across the country, helping to change the laws in the other states. We have over 150,000 members in every single state and jurisdiction. Who advocate on our behalf. So what we do is we teach people how to advocate, but we also give them the tools. So we'll write letters that they can just easily just push a button and send to their legislators, or federal, state or federal. And we help them with, paths forward, how to not just create policy, but improve it as well, because we all know even in states with medical cannabis programs, even in states with medical and adult use, there's still patients that are suffering because they can't afford it. There's no access, or not enough access. There's not enough products. There's not the products they need.
Or they work for the federal government.
They work for the federal government. Yeah, like the federal restrictions. They can't, visit their families without either illegally taking their drugs over state lines or not taking their medicine with them. So our mission is really to create safe and legal access for everyone in this country, no matter what condition you have, no matter where you live, no matter how much money you have, because we do think that insurance should pay for it.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. So we're really fighting for so many things right now.
Zero taxes.
Absolutely. Patients should not have to pay taxes.
Absolutely.
Taxes are absolutely crazy. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I'm going to be trying to change next year at the legislature, in the Arizona legislature, is I'll keep pushing for that zero tax thing. There's a way to do it, too. If you increase the adult choice tax by 1 or 2%, you know who's going to stand in the way with that more than anyone else? Industry members who don't respect and appreciate the fact that this is a medicine, and and the patient should be taken care of first.
Well, and they really should. And so research has shown, first of all, patients are more loyal to a dispensary and a brand than adult use consumers. Patients will go to a dispensary 30% more times than adult use consumers. And if you really think about it, we're just on the beginning of the potential for medical. Once we get in all these big patient organizations, MS Society, Michael J. Fox Foundation, Epilepsy Foundation, who are all like dipping their toes in cannabis, but once we really get them to understand the potential of cannabis as medicine, it's going to be huge. It's going to be one of the best medicines there ever was, because it's so much. It already is, but the stigma is still there.
Right.
And so once we get that research, more research, and more doctors on board, and less stigmatized, potential for the medicine's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we need those. I mean, it's especially for patients and for medicine the triple blind studies, the objectiveness. You know, I mean, in the end, we have that with Tylenol. We have that with aspirin, but then aspirin sometimes has negative effects on certain individuals, even though it's considered safe. You know, caffeine affects most people the same way, and it's scientifically studied a lot, but it's not always consistent. So,
well, and I think that's important too, to do these drug and drug interactions to show like how cannabis works with other medicines that people may be taking is also very important, because we want people to be safe.
It's like Rocco. we had powdered THC here last podcast, and you know, powdered THC. Yeah. And Rocco's like, so you know, the guy was talking about mixing it with water, and Rocco's like, what other substances can I mix that with? Immediately, he jumps right into, like, he's thinking about Bacardi 151, or I don't know what he's thinking. Motor oil, I don't know, you know, but you know, we can. Somebody's gonna do those studies. Probably Rocco. So, but he's not here. But so you guys are also involved. So like on the daily, what does your day look like? You know, what do you guys give me through like?
Every day's different, because so we are a national organization. So not only do we do federal stuff, we do things in every single state. And as you know, legislation and policy is changing all the time in every single state. So we start out with some targeted states, but then depending on what's going on, we kind of switch it up. Like I might wake up one morning, and you know, a new bill has been introduced or reintroduced, which just happened a few weeks ago. So now we got to do a press release. We got to look into it. We got to see what's going to happen if this goes through. What's going to happen if it doesn't. We analyze all legislation. So we look at it and we say, what is this going to mean for patients in this state, or what is it going to mean for patients nationwide? How likely is it to pass? You know, who do we need to talk to help make it pass? So there's a lot of analysis going on into every news article that you see about policy. We have been like analyzing it down to the bone to see what we can do to help move it forward.
What do you guys find? Did you have a question? I was going to think about the federal level.
I can ask you a question. This is so huge work that you're doing. Like there's so many areas. Like working with doctors, that means you have to educate the doctors. Working with patients, you have to educate the patients. Working with institutions, you have to resolve their issues and educate them too. So how do you do that? Is it like social media, writing articles, or how you get access?
We do a lot of reports.
Needs to be effective. Otherwise, there's so many people here.
Yes, we have. Well, first of all, we have a huge network of people: medical professionals, legal professionals, patients, industry professionals. We want to see every side of the story. We don't just take one look. We say, how is this going to affect patients? How is it going to affect businesses? How is it going to affect other people in the state? But so we kind of take a look at all those sides for everything we do. But when it comes to doctor education is like a huge thing. I mean, we started looking at doctor education probably 7 years ago to see, what can we do to get doctors better educated on this, because patients are going to turn to their doctors, and it's a doctor's right to say, I'm going to look into that for you. I may not know about it, but as your doctor, I should look into this and see, is this going to help you? Right. And so we really encourage patients to talk to their doctors, even if you feel like they might say no. We want doctors to hear that patients are coming to them and saying, I want to look into cannabis as an option. So we really encourage patients to talk to their doctors as much as possible.
Can I add something on there? So, like you asked about, like,
I thought you were pointing at something.
Communication kind of stuff. So we're a membership organization. So people sign up as members, and we communicate with them on email, and then we're also on social media, so on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, Twitter. I'm on TikTok.
Are you?
But I am. Piper Ace the Challenge.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, who's not spying on us?
I mailed him my death.
But we when you're a member, you get important notices and things like that. So, and membership is one of the things that's really important to showing legislators and policymakers this is an important issue. So we're looking to increase membership and, of course, increase funding. But the membership is really key. And it's a grassroots organization. So, so that individual participation, not just not everybody, especially patients, don't usually have surplus income. We are happy to have people, helping or doing whatever they're able
Our
to.
lowest membership is just $25 a year. So that's for veterans and students. And the normal membership is just $35 a year. We're a nonprofit, so we
normal Americans for Safe Access, not normal.
No, yeah, sorry, just the regular membership.
But are you guys involved? And if I may change the subject for a second, just a federal legalization. You guys are sort of involved.
So we are. Yes.
Legislation?
We have written legislation to federally legalize medical cannabis. So just like it went into the other states, medical came in first, and then adult use. Once people realized, okay, this isn't so bad, adult use came in no problem, right? That's how we see it's going to happen federally, because I'm telling you, legalization is not going to happen in the next few years, adult use legalization. However, if we can get our foot in, we can get medical, which is really most important, because patients... They don't just use this medicine for fun. They use it because it's life-saving or it's helping them. They need it. We need to get the patients taken care of. So we wrote some federal legalization that's going to protect businesses, protect medical professionals, takes out the taxes, takes out the banking issues. And we've been on Capitol Hill looking for a sponsor for it for the last few months. So
that's the Schedule 6 stuff.
Yes,
yeah. So,
yeah, it's all over marijuana moment.
Yeah.
So...
You got a banner on there?
Yes, but we don't work with them.
Right, of course not.
But there's a lot of people. We also agree that there should be a new schedule created, Schedule 6. We're not the only ones that think this way, but cannabis really doesn't fit into the other schedules. And it's not going to be descheduled, unfortunately. That's not going to happen either. But we definitely believe it is going to be rescheduled this session. For
How do the lobbyists from some of the cannabis industry groups and companies, are you guys the ones spearheading this legislation?
This one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
they come to you. You're lead. You're the tip of the spear. How do the lobbyists feel about their legislation that you drafted?
So I'm going to be honest. Most lobbyists
I'm going to be honest. I don't give a shit.
Well, I'm just going to say most lobbyists are for adult use legalization. No one can see the vision that we see because we work with patients. We understand their issues. Sorry.
No, you're onto something here, but there's a lot of industry. I'll get to this thing in a second, but go ahead.
Well, as I say, so we've talked to industry associations, but to be honest, all they care about is the banking bill. That's all they care about. They don't want to help us because their priority is the banking bill. Yeah.
And then industry associations don't. I mean, META has all these members, but there's a lot of competing interests. And a lot of these people, all they think about is their bottom line, their niche in the supply chain, how the changes in regulations are going to impact them, and their ability to make money. They're not there for the patients.
So one of the things that I'd like to break in here, though, about is something I don't understand in doing development work and trying. I was like, I don't understand how federal access isn't an issue for industry because it's interstate commerce. It's 280E. It's like these are big financial hurdles that people in cannabis have to overcome.
The industry. That's what we don't understand. We're literally trying to open this industry for everyone in the country. But the industry...
Get a little closer so you can...
Oh, sorry. Yeah. We're trying to help enlarge the industry. We're trying to get access for every single human being in this country. Like right now, if you live in one state, you can only sell to 200,000 people, maybe 300,000. Yeah. There are 6 million current medical cannabis patients in the country. Can you imagine going from having to sell to 200,000 to go to 600 million just from legalization?
Yes. You know what? Your spirit is the right place. You're a good person. I'm on your side. So I'm here to help. Going to play devil's advocate, a couple things, going to point out a couple things, and then whatever it is that someone is telling you, we'll figure it out together and channel your spirit and your energy, take it in the right direction. Okay? Deal? Because I'm with you. It's all about the patients. So a lot of these lobbyists might say, if we get medical across the finish line, great. But won't that delay adult use, adult choice? Which is ultimately where we're going to make most of our money. No, think about it. Not me.
No, they're not.
But suddenly the federal government says, You guys have access to medical cannabis, and all the medical states can do whatever they want to do. But we're going to hold on adult use. That could potentially, theoretically, delay adult use, adult choice legislation for another 5-10 years, as that issue, that hurdle needs to be jumped. So I'm just playing devil's advocate. So I'm thinking about this like that's one of my maybe very.
Nobody told you about the slippery slope?
No,
Come
so-
on.
But
The slippery slope.
But they're going to be
It
like,
happens
they're going to
faster.
be like, no, let's not. No, but they're not
But
going to say this
let
openly.
let me say this. The
Yeah,
opposite
they're not gonna
is
say
true.
this openly to
The
you.
opposite is true. Fighting for adult use is holding back medical. Patients need this
Oh, I
medicine.
agree with you on that.
You understand? They can't wait
No,
5 years.
I agree with you on that 100%.
So I feel the opposite. I feel like fighting for adult use is holding back the medical movement. We should have access to every single patient in this country
Right.
should have access. It's life-saving medicine.
I agree with you. on
And
that.
here's-
All I'm talking about is
Here's
because
I'm going to play devil's advocate
I
for
agree with you 100% that the industry members should be, everyone, all citizens of the United States,
That's how it used to
should be medical marijuana. Allow it. It's a no-brainer. Should be federally legal. But the way that these lobbyists work is they are hired to achieve
industry.
the specifically objectives of their clients. And if they think that medical federal legalization will somehow slow down the adult use, regardless of the good of it, they will advise their
Right.
clients to say, no, we don't support that. We just hold off because that's going to interfere with our ability to get the whole thing. See what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. But
So, but my point here is that for one thing, legislators aren't listening to lobbyists. They have so many lobbyists for different organizations. Who they're listening to are the patients who come in front of them. It's people like me and Debbie and all of the other volunteers who
Right.
come in and share personal stories. So Thomas Klobes has research that indicates the best way to change people's minds about cannabis is to put a patient scenario in front of them.
And I'm with you on that. And legislators would they exactly because I've been lobbying conservative, liberal, left, right, Democrat for 10 years on this subject now that I understand it and unequivocally, passionately advocate for medical. The legislators, they get that. But then the devil's in the details is how the market structure, and we're
Okay.
talking about
Yeah.
different things too, because
Right.
you know the who makes the money. In this whole conference, everybody's here trying to make money. You know, that's what they're here for.
I'm not.
But-
Yeah, well,
I mean, that would
no.
that would be nice if I could make money, but
No.
I'm here volunteering doing this. I'm
Okay,
spending. I'm
okay,
here spending.
Okay, so
money.
me, I'm
Trying to get laws passed.
I'm a unique person because I'm 50% money, 50% advocacy. You know, Mita respects the money, but and respects the advocacy. That's why we've developed Mita USA in a way. If I can take 1 second, hold your thought. You don't want to lose your thought. You got to save your thought. We're developing Mita USA in a way that is specifically structured around patients and consumers. And this is what I was talking about earlier, because what I've seen over the last 10 years is nothing but individuals who are here. There's all the people that care passionately doing the right thing, all the passionately advocating for freedom, for choice, for medical use, unconditionally, and then all these people that are just trying to make money. And what happens is when they niche themselves in to the supply chain, whether it's cultivation, manufacturing, or retail, it's not that they no longer care about doing the right thing. They care more about protecting their interests and their little niche in the supply chain. So federal legalization, if and when it happens, absolutely it should happen, needs to happen around their specific interests. They hire lobbyists to protect those particular interests. So for the 8 years I wrestled with this as I realized the devilness and the greed involved with the lobbyists and lawyers. And finally it came to me that the only people who really give a damn about building an economy, a market structure, a supply chain that's around the best interests of the patients and the consumers is the brands. And this is a brand conference. And this is one of the reasons why we support the brands, because they want safe, tested product to get to consumers and patients as freely as possible across state and international lines.
Yep.
And they also have money and want to make money. So Mita USA is a brand organization. Not to take anything away from a retail organization, a manufacturing organization, a cultivation organization, an organization that represents a particular state that might have a particular agenda, or any of the other groups out there who are going to hire lobbyists to ultimately not to federally legalize, not to serve the best interests of patients, not to medically legalize, but to protect their financial interests. And so this is a crazy ass stuff. I love you. I think you're great. You're coming at it from the right approach. I'm just saying, beware of the details.
We get it. We want to protect companies, and in fact, protecting the
That's
current
not. But who
industry
cares about
and
protecting
brands,
companies? It's not your. It's
but
not your problem.
that is in our legislation to protect the current industry, because we don't want any kind of
As
problem
designed
where
by who?
patients are suddenly out of medicine because someone comes in and says, "Okay, we're going to legalize this, but you have to do it this certain way." So we want to protect the industry. But brands, you're right. Brands are really important. A lot of them actually do care about patients, which we really appreciate. A lot of them have patient-specific products. But once again, we're trying to help the brands. We're saying, instead of you selling just to people in your state, how about you sell to everyone in the whole country?
Okay, right there. I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I'm with you on that. We're about interstate commerce. But if you said that to me, if you said, you know what, Americans for Safe Access wants interstate commerce, I'm going to be like, if I have a particular agenda that might not work for that. If I have a niche in the supply chain that says, yeah, I don't want interstate commerce. For example, if I just put $50 million into a cultivation in New Jersey, okay, and you say we want interstate commerce, I'm going to say, yeah, that's not the bill that I want. I want a federal bill that says I can protect state rights, so I can have little barriers to entry, and that New Jersey can wreck these walls, and then a patient has to get their stuff illegally through the black market or whatever, because the best product is coming out of California. These are the competing interests. These are the nasty people. And those lobbyists, they exist.
Oh, I know that, and that's why legalization won't happen, because that only goes for doesn't only go for companies. It goes for the legislators who say, "Hey, I'm making so much money in this state. Why would I open it up? Is anyone going to buy cannabis from New Jersey if they can buy it in California?" So yes, there's lots of issues when it comes to that.
They're barely out there yet. I've met a lot of regulators, a lot of politicians, as you have from different states and stuff. The concept of somebody of a state that's making a lot of top sellers, maybe Colorado might, hiring certain lobbyists at the federal level to say, hey, make sure our tax structure is protected as you guys go federally legal. When you bump into that person, get their name and their number, because I want to interview them, okay? And I want to call them out on their bullshit, okay? But if they exist, I will hunt them down. I will find them. I'm like Salt after she fell out of the helicopter. Remember? Salt? Angelina Jolie?
Oh, I didn't watch that.
Who will find them? I will hunt them all. No, but we want transparency. Be openness about it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's happening out there behind the scenes. That's impacting the entire business, the entire economy, and this is absolutely true. And you guys are right in the middle of it. I just be very careful about what that legislation says and who supports it and why. Because ultimately, we need free market economics, we need interstate trade, we need access for patients and consumers. Yeah. That's why I said, look, I'm going to be in this industry. I'm heading towards brands.
Well, you're smart.
I'm very smart. I'm just kidding. And you guys smarter. Are too. No, I love you guys.
It's hard. Look, I'm gonna be honest. It's really hard to be an advocate in this industry. It used to be our biggest, people that were against us were people that didn't agree.
Politicians
that didn't agree with it. But now the biggest people that are against us are people that don't agree with what our strategy is.
I know, it's crazy,
so, and I'd like to say, that's frustrating as a patient caregiver advocate, and to see other patients who have spent so much of their personal money, personal effort going to work to, at Capitol buildings throughout the country to pass laws that people are financially benefiting from here. And, granted, it's kind of limited at this point, but what about those kids who are who were carted around? And I mean, my son's not in a wheelchair, but I know plenty of people who brought their kids with them in wheelchairs to Capitol buildings, and they're still not getting. And we need help with that. Yeah. We need help to get federal access, because I had 3 friends so far this year lose their kids. And it's heartbreaking as a parent of a child with a chronic illness, watching other parents with kids with chronic illnesses that are the same as yours pass away, and know there is federal legislation. Why are we letting people die?
Yep.
People really are dying. We need everybody in industry and everybody who's interested in this passing to help. And I started this campaign, Ear Shred for ASA. I hope you guys participate. Because we need to have federal legislation. I don't want to watch any more of my friends' kids pass away, and I know that's not reality. I'm going to see friends with kids pass away, but we need everybody's help to get this done. Let's just get it done. I don't understand why people don't get on board.
Well, and this is a discussion. I mean, I like to say all I have is red guitar, 3 chords of the truth, and we have to figure out what's real. Yep. And you got to figure out where the wolves are, who the players on the field are, what they're doing. You're navigating an unbelievably complex web trying to achieve an objective that has never been achieved before.
Yeah.
And suddenly, you're no longer wrestling with the notion, it barely exists at this point, the notion that cannabis shouldn't be allowed to exist as a choice for individuals. There's still 20-30% of the public who's like, oh, cannabis sucks, and they shouldn't have a choice. We want prohibition. But so you're no longer wrestling with that.
Right.
Now one of the big things is how do we legalize and who will benefit? And then you have individuals, and I promise you, I was one of them. I was a lobbyist in Arizona, and I've helped educate half the lobbyists in Arizona. Across the country, I've done things like this and met people like this and politicians all the way through conferences in Florida and Texas and all these kind of things. I work with senators and representatives in all these different states and lobbyists and lawyers. It's just lobbyists that drive me nuts. I just don't like lobbyists. So, but I promise you, they're in there now, and you know them.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who are like, but they claim to represent industry.
Yeah.
They do not represent patients and consumers. And if they represent certain members of industry and they're trying to slow down or impede the progress that your group needs to make in order to legalize federally, we need to call them out. And the consumers and the patients need to know who they are and what they're doing that is slowing it down. And it exists. Trust me,
yeah.
it exists. And you know it. You know
Yes,
it.
definitely.
You tell me who they are and we'll invite them on the podcast. No, we'll say, hey, this person... Just send me a note. I won't tell them who gave me the phone number or their name or stuff. This is unshackled. We'll say, hey, you know what? We hear that you guys have a lobbyist that's involved in federal legalization. What do you think about this? Tell me the questions to ask. Nobody will know it came from you. They won't, because I'll just ask them. But that's the thing. You got massive corporations that are up there, like in the boardroom of TrueLeaf. God bless them. And that's a complicated situation. They're like, we support federal legalization, but what's that going to do to our business structure, our market structure, our business model, our investments?
And that's what we hear all the time. Yeah.
We have shareholders that we have a duty to, for God's sakes, and they do have a duty to the shareholders. But their duty to their shareholders, it should never conflict with the duty we have to patients and consumers. But the reality is it does, and so, we should work together more.
Well,
Yeah,
I think that
absolutely.
you giving us this opportunity to have this conversation is really meaningful because, I mean, you're right. And I don't think that calling people out on this would be appropriate. But I do think like in this event, MJ Unpacked is like a great event for social consciousness also, which is great. Yeah. And it's a great opportunity to have these conversations and say, like, we can figure something out that works for everybody. Let's just start the conversations,
It's so interwoven. There's no separating it. And George and Kim curate a great event.
It's
and
fantastic.
It brings people together. It allows people to have conversations like this. And I hope that as you talk to industry members and they get to know you more, 85-90% of them are like, I'm just happy to be here. I'll deal with however the waves flow. What do waves do? Waves wave. However the waves wave, right? Or however the punches roll.
Ebb
or
and flow.
Waves ebb and flow. Whatever happens, I'll deal with it as it comes. But 10% I said, you know what? I make the waves. Like that guy from Titanic. A real man makes his own luck. Remember? Do you want to? Okay. Does anybody like him? No. Did you like the guy in the Titanic who said that?
I didn't watch the movie.
That's another movie I didn't watch too.
Oh my God. I'm like
0 for 2 here on the
I'm
movies.
like a bucket full of cheap 80s references. I'm like, remember The Intern from, I forgot it.
Are you going to pull up 0 for 3 movies?
In between those obscure 80s references. No, but like that guy, he's like a real man makes his own luck. Why? Because he wanted to take control of the situation. that in the end, Mother Nature and fate had control over. But here, it's not Mother Nature and fate. It's a combination of hundreds, if not thousands, of human beings that make up the decision-making process at the federal level. So that's not Mother Nature. Now, who's going to control that? Who's going to impact that? I hope you guys do.
Thank you.
I just be very careful, because what patients and consumers want is the Amazon-like access, tested, safe, as quickly as possible to their doorstep. What does that fall directly in contradiction to? The retail model. Who's going to lobby against your form of legalization? Any retail lobbyists? Are there any? Maybe, maybe not. Of course there are.
But would they do you think that they would actively lobby against something that's going to help patients? Like, they may not agree with it, but actively lobbying against something that's going to help patients is really...
This is what I can say.
In order to have that statement is very important.
This is what I can
something that's going to be very helpful in this, to have a medical qualified data from clinical trials. Because this is really what you can put out, and you say, well, but this data needs to be done by universities, by like pharma qualified process.
Right.
Usually in Europe, when you have something that you don't have a data, they put in the novelty food program and say you cannot do it, cannot use it anyway. But if you want to go and do your clinical trials, we'll give it a chance. After probably a couple of years, they review and they give you a chance. That's a lot of money to go through. How they do it in America? When something doesn't have enough data, they say you cannot do it, like a federally illegal. And everybody starts their own process to legalize it. But again, as the problem is that everyone, they doesn't even do these clinical trials because it's expensive and they're very separated. Over here, you see, like, we need to have a fund. That fund is for clinical trials. And these clinical trials needs to be done exactly a certain way. So you can use this data. And because nobody can tell you, you cannot do it if they see that it cures dementia or it does this type of cancer for
but our thought is we don't think there's anyone that's going to do that kind of research until it is federally illegal, right? Until they can help not just the people that have epilepsy in this state,
but
they
can't legally do the research
have a medical
until
cards. So why not? They have medical cards and doctors that are involved in it.
Yeah, but they can't legally do the research because it's a federally illegal substance. So it's like a catch-22.
They can, but it's really hard to do research on a Schedule I drug. So that's the problem. But
then if you get that, it's also really expensive. You're facing a market where you have 200,000 patients versus 6 million, then are you going to spend as much money as it costs to research what helps my son's epilepsy? And for how many of those 200,000 patients in your state have the same type of epilepsy, where instead you're looking at, like, especially with rare diseases, and there's so many rare diseases that that cannabis has the potential to be therapeutic for, that that we really need to, especially for rare diseases, have that global access to research and interstate commerce that'll free up research from private corporations and stuff.
That's why I was encouraging the global research.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we do it on a small scale as we do it right now, it's going to be not sufficient data.
Well, they are researching in other countries. Like even in Mexico, or in Canada, they have institutes and research things going on. We have stuff going on in the United States, but not to scale.
Yeah.
So, but we got to wrap this up. And so Piper, Debbie, you guys want to give some closing thoughts? How do people get a hold of you?
So I encourage you to look at our website, SafeAccessNow.org. We have a ton of free information, a bunch of reports, scientific reports. Everything we do is backed by science. Free information for patients, for legislators. We help you, teach you how to advocate. We give you resources. Sign up for our emails or newsletters, or help us out by becoming a member or donating.
Yeah, member or donating. And then I'd like to also add to that my ASA challenge, the Air Shred for ASA. So it's just, I just donated to Americans for Safe Access. I challenge you 4 people to Air Shred for ASA. This is how I shred. And you can just tear up the DEA schedule and challenge those 4 people, and hopefully this goes viral and gets some mainstream media talking about this issue, and so we can get some progress on stuff.
Like that.
Yeah, just
Lots of
look
stuff.
up hashtag Air Shred for ASA, and you'll see a bunch of videos people have done.
Excellent. And so what we should show, maybe we'll show a video here. We'll see if we can edit that in somehow. So thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate the conversation. And of course, keep doing the good work that you're doing. Just watch your back. That's all I'm saying. Watch your
I
back.
constantly am.
I think that's where we disagree. You're kind of cynical. I'm more of an optimist.
I'm cynical, so I'm with you.
No, I'm just a realist. Everything's going to be fine in the end.
Okay.
Okay, like a river runs through it. A river to the ocean goes. What's the old phrase? River to the ocean goes. A blessing for the undertow. Where it goes, no one knows. Only the river knows. It's like an old poem, but it's like everything's like water. It's going to end in the end. The inevitable flow of things. It's going to happen. But these little busy beavers are out there.
Beaver is my favorite animal.
And you might. What happens is they create a little dam because they're concerned about the little bit of water. So suddenly this water is getting held up like a little lake up in the Rocky Mountains, like this, because they're going to protect their own interests.
Beavers are smart, though. I don't think we should continue to use the beaver analogy. They're good for the environment. Beavers do good.
What's another human being? What's another animal that manipulates its own environment as much as a beaver? I don't know. Man.
You should watch that documentary, Leave It to Beaver. Have you seen that?
Yes.
You have?
That's anyways.
Leave It to Beavers.
Just watch your back.
Beavers are great.
Another episode of Meat Unshackled.